Hello, YouTube. This is Let's Talk Horror, and welcome back to another video. Okay, guys, so I know I took a short break there for a while. I said I was going to make a Chucky TV series trailer reaction video. I never did. And it's partly because I realized that this format just doesn't work all that well for reaction videos like that. So in the future, when a trailer drops, I might have to break out the old webcam and get that out so I can give you guys a true, genuine reaction to a trailer, a poster, or something like that. So I wanted to jump on here today because it's Friday, August 13th. So it's Friday the 13th. And I thought that was a great opportunity to jump on here and do my first ranking video of a franchise. And so we're going to rank all 12 Friday the 13th movies for you today because we're not getting much else from this franchise. Thank you, lawsuit. Thanks a lot. But so this is going to be fun. This list may be controversial to some of you. Please remember that this is just my opinion. And if you don't agree, that's okay. You don't have to agree with my rankings. These are horror movies. We can have a civil disagreement about them. It's not the end of the world, guys. If a movie you like on this list is ranked low, it's just my opinion. Totally cool if you like or love that movie. And if a movie that you hate is ranked high on this list, again, it's totally cool. So let's jump right in here. Now, the franchise as a whole, as much as I consider myself a Halloween guy, and I do, in a weird way, I think I enjoy this franchise as a whole more. And it might be partly because, as great as Halloween 1978 is, it casts a shadow over the rest of the franchise, and in a way it makes it harder to enjoy the sequels, whereas Friday the 13th 1980, let's be honest, it doesn't cast that same shadow, so it's easier to enjoy some of the later sequels. So I just wanted to point that out. I think as much as I love Michael Myers as a character in Halloween, as a movie from 1978, and as much as I love the franchise as a whole too, again, it almost feels like I can sit back and enjoy Friday the 13th a little bit more because the original movie doesn't make it to where the sequels have such a huge legacy to live up to. So I just thought that was interesting. Okay, let's jump in here. At number 12, and it's Jason Takes Manhattan. Now, I think it might surprise some people that this is right at the bottom of my list, but it is. I don't usually see this one at the very bottom of a lot of Friday the 13th franchise rankings list, but I hate this movie. It has very few redeemable qualities. My biggest complaint is it's one big lie. It's one big lie. It is not Jason Takes Manhattan. It is Jason goes for a cruise and then to Vancouver, and we get a couple of shots of him in Manhattan. And I guess why I'm so down on this one is because it shouldn't have been this hard to make Jason in Manhattan into a fun, decent Friday the 13th movie. But the studio didn't give the creative people behind this movie a chance to do that because I believe in the original script, if I'm not mistaken, the director has come out and said that they were supposed to go to Madison Square Garden and to the Statue of Liberty and places like that. So, but they didn't have the budget, so they had to put him on a boat for an hour, and it's Jason Takes a Cruise. And we are in Manhattan for very little of this movie. And as far as Jason goes, I'm going to rip the Band-Aid off right now. First controversial opinion. I'm not the biggest fan of Kane Hodder as Jason. I know some of you really view him as the definitive Jason. You can. I think in that regard, he's massively overrated. Now again, overrated doesn't always mean bad, folks. I want to get that out there right away. I don't think Kane Hodder is a bad Jason, and I'm sure Kane Hodder is a genuinely nice dude. He seems like a genuinely nice dude. To me, though, he's just not the definitive Jason. He's just not the definitive Jason. I think he gets that title because he's the only one to ever play the character more than once. And while he's decent, he's a decent Jason. I think he's even a good Jason. I don't think he's the definitive Jason. And in fact, I think there's one person in this franchise that is a far, far, far better Jason than Kane Hodder. But yeah, Jason as a whole, I don't love his look in this. It's not good. He doesn't look good. None of the kills are memorable except one. One of the only positives I can give this movie is the kill where he's going against that boxer and he punches his head off. That was cool. That's one of the only positives. But the final girl, Rennie, nah, not interested. Not interesting at all. Yeah, nothing I can really positively say about this movie. Very few positives. And then the ending is just stupid. The ending is just stupid. New Yorkers, if you're watching this, you live in New York. No, the sewers don't fill with toxic waste at night. That's ridiculous. It's just stupid. I hate this movie. I hate this movie. And as a Friday the 13th movie, it's easily the worst. And I've hated it ever since I first saw it. And it's sad because Jason in Manhattan definitely had quite a bit of potential. And this could have been a fun Friday the 13th movie, but that is not what we got. Number 11, and it hurts to put this here, but it's Friday the 13th Part 5, A New Beginning. And it hurts to put this there because a few years ago when I revisited this franchise for the first time in years, I was actually a New Beginning defender, and I actually really enjoyed the movie. And then I watched it 6 months or a year after that, and I cooled on it a bit, but I still enjoyed the movie. And then for some reason, this viewing, I just completely cooled on it. I will defend it in this. I like that they tried to go back to the whodunit aspect, and unlike Jason Takes Manhattan, it's not a complete lie. They did try to have a new beginning. And I'll say it, if you know it's a whodunit going in, they do a pretty good job at, dropping little like red herrings in there. Like, maybe you think it could be the mother or her son because they talk about how they want to kill the kids at this youth institution or whatever. Or you think it could be that one guy who just wants to work for a meal. But the problem is they don't fill you in on that it's a red herring at first. And by the way, what really hurts this movie is the two scenes he is in, Roy comes off as very suspicious. I think Roy is an interesting killer because he's kind of like Pamela Voorhees in a way, except with Pamela, it was a mother protecting her son. With Roy, it was a father getting revenge for his son's death, except unlike Pamela, who we all assume was a great mother, and cared for Jason and, loved him, Roy left his son at a very young age. So I thought that was kind of interesting. But as far as the kills go, the kills are actually decent, but there are a lot of cutaway kills for one. We do get some unique kills with like the flare and the belt. And then as far as the characters go, again, this is the most forgettable version of Tommy Jarvis, easily. Pam, who I guess you would say is the final girl in this movie, are just not memorable at all. And even there's one scene at the end of this movie where quote unquote, Jason is coming after her and she's just on the ground crawling away for some reason. And it's not like she's injured or anything. And it's just ridiculous. As far as the characters, again, none of the characters are memorable. So while I think this had potential, and I think if they had just been open and honest about, hey, it's not Jason, it's a whodunit, and if they handled that whodunit a little bit better, and they do drop some red herrings, but again, Roy is just super suspicious the first time he walks on screen. I hate to put this one this low because I used to be a big New Beginning defender, but this one, it really wore on me. The kills are okay, but not great. The acting isn't particularly good. The characters aren't particularly good. Yeah, A New Beginning is number 11 on this list. And then at number 10, Jason Goes to Hell. Now, I will give them this. I do appreciate that they tried to do something new. And as far as the feel of this movie, it certainly doesn't feel like a Friday the 13th movie. It feels much different from all the other Friday the 13th movies. And I'm going to say it, when you're binge watching this franchise, that can be a welcome element to this thing, because this franchise can get stale real quick if you're binge watching them. And they did try to give us something new. But yeah, Jason as this worm guy and the whole thing of he can switch bodies and there's this familial connection. And they had, he has to go to the Voorhees house. To me, it felt too much like they were trying to rip off Halloween, which is ironic because Sean Cunningham was involved with this movie. This was his the first movie he was involved with since Friday the 13th, part 1, I believe. And it's always been rumored that the first thing he said to Victor Miller is, Halloween is making a lot of money, let's rip it off. And now we kind of have this story, or this movie, which is kind of ripping off the Halloween bloodline type of things. So just kind of found that ironic. Some of the kills are good, like the kill through the tent was pretty good. And I actually like Jason's look here. But sadly, we don't get to see it a lot. Jason is only in this movie as Jason in that form for a very short period of time. And then there's just practical effects. Practical effects are actually pretty good. There's this one scene where he leaves this guy's body and the dude like melts away. That was really good practical effects as well. Yeah, if you're looking for something just completely different, this is a good one. But for me, it's the body switching thing and the familial collection and the fact that, there's this magical knife that can kill him. Now we're kind of jumping the shark. It's a little bit too much for me. Seeing him get dragged down to hell is pretty cool, but I think it would have been a cooler idea if they actually had him in hell. Like, do something along those lines. Have a movie where Jason is in hell for the majority of the movie and maybe he's fighting off demons. That would have been cool. But so to a certain extent, this one is also a lie, but I don't know. At the same time, it's not. But yeah, I don't hate this one. I know a lot of people hate this one. I don't hate it, but it's never going to be the first one I pop in. Maybe I'll pop it in occasionally when I want a completely different Friday the 13th. But so Jason Goes to Hell is at number 10 on this list. At number 9, it's A New Blood. Again, the idea of Jason fighting something supernatural, really cool idea. And it's executed fairly well. When you get to the end of the movie and Tina's like fucking Jason up, that was awesome. Also, Jason, by far his best look of the franchise here, with like the bones and the skin, sticking out. This is also Kane Hodder's first movie as Jason. Again, I'm going to say it. I'm not a huge fan. I'm not that big of a fan of Kane Hodder. I'm just not. And I don't think he's that great in this movie. I think the only thing he really adds to the character is that he's bigger than a lot of the other Jasons, and then that deep, heavy breath he takes. But I don't think he's that great in this movie, although I will give him credit. Once the mask comes off at the end of the movie, the acting he is able to do through that rubber is pretty darn impressive. Tina is also a pretty good final girl. The problem is, one, the kills are terrible in this. They got really watered down by the MPA. I think if they had some of the original kills that were originally filmed more in this movie, it would have been better. It would have been a lot better, in fact. And then the other problem I have with this is, for as much crap as the 2009 reboot gets for having bad characters, I actually think this one has a lot of unlikable, shitty characters. You have Dr. Cruz, you have Melissa. They're all kind of shitty and forgettable, really. And that's one of the big flaws with this movie. And then I don't know. I wasn't digging the Nick Tina relationship. It's okay, I guess. And then finally the ending. The ending is stupid. I think the ending would have been a lot cooler if they gave the same zombie makeup that they gave to Jason, and they also gave it to the father. That would have been cool. Again, I love the fight between Tina and Jason, but the characters aren't good in this. The kills are really, really watered down, which really takes away from this movie. And as much as I like Jason's look and I like the makeup, Kane Hodder, this isn't his best portrayal of Jason. So at number 9, I don't hate this one. At the end of the day, it's okay, but yeah, at number 9, we're going to go with Friday the 13th, A New Blood. Okay, at number 8, Jason X. And yes, it might surprise you that this one is as high as it is. I don't know. I guess maybe because I didn't have high expectations and never had high expectations for Jason X. I mean, it's Jason in space. I'm able to sit back and enjoy this one a bit more. For one, this is easily Kane Hodder's best portrayal of Jason by far. I like him in this the most. And we get one of the best kills in this franchise with the frozen face kill. And yet they also have fun with it. You know, they do this simulation thing where, Jason's back in Crystal Lake and he's, beating up these two counselors with in sleeping bags. And I thought that was fun. And then, of course, Uber Jason. And Uber Jason, who doesn't love Uber Jason? That was awesome, that final fight sequence. But I really don't have much to say about this one. It's Jason in space. And once again, it definitely feels like a different Friday the 13th movie. I like how they had fun with it. They didn't take themselves too seriously. There's a little bit of mild comedy. The cinematography is pretty good as well. And overall, yeah, we got some pretty memorable kills in this one. There's, underlying comedy. You can tell they weren't taking themselves too seriously. And just having Jason in space, it's a nice change of pace. So at number 8, we're going to go with Jason X. And then number 7 is part 3 in 3D. Now, this is an interesting one because I said with A New Beginning that as time goes on, I tend to like that movie less and less. Well, with Friday the 13th Part 3, I actually have the exact opposite reaction. I tend to like it more and more. Part 3, when I first saw it, for some reason I hated it. I watched it with a buddy and we just nitpicked and we just despised it. And now I tend to view it as a decent but flawed sequel. For one, I love the opening with the disco. You can tell this is when they first started to realize what they had with this franchise and stop taking themselves so seriously. But Richard Brooker is Jason. I really like Richard Brooker as Jason. You get some good characters here. Shelley is maybe the most memorable character of this. And I like the Shelley-Vera relationship because you watch that movie and that's kind of the closest thing we ever get to character development in this movie, or in this franchise, excuse me. Yeah, a huge positive is this will always go down as the movie where Jason gets his hockey mask. Yep, this is the movie where Jason got his hockey mask. And that iconic look for this character was born, and it's great. And initially, he was supposed to not even have a mask. It was just supposed to be his face. And I'm so glad that they changed that and made it to where he does have a mask because I love that look, and it looks good in this movie. One thing I will say, though, is the final girl, Chris, not the most interesting final girl, kind of bland. Not the most well acted by Donna Kimmel. We get some great kills though in this movie. We get the handstand kill I thought was great. We get another one of those through the bed, or I guess through the hammock kills. Also, I noticed in this movie that this movie was kind of going for a little bit more of a slow burn. You can definitely tell in this movie that they were inspired by Halloween, because especially in that opening scene with that couple or whatever, there's a lot of kind of Halloween-esque shots of like Jason in the shadows. And I thought that was cool. But at the same time, the 3D, especially if you're watching this in 2D, the attempts at 3D haven't aged well at all. Yeah, that is maybe my biggest flaw with the movie. And the problem is I think they spent so much time on the 3D gimmick when they should have been putting that into better acting. Because the acting in this movie, even for this franchise, it takes quite the step back. The acting in quite a few scenes is not good, but the kills are good. Richard Brooker is good as Jason. I like that they explored that the final girl has a past with Jason, even if she's not my favorite final girl in the franchise. I thought that was interesting. And this is where Jason gets his hockey mask. I have fun with this one now. It's not great. It's probably never going to be the first one I pop in. It's flawed, but it's decent. Yeah, this is where I would put part 3 at number 7 in this franchise. And number 6 is Freddy versus Jason. And I initially, when I was making this list, I had this one higher on the list. But then I thought about it, and I moved it down mainly because one of the things is this feels more like an Elm Street movie than a Friday the 13th movie. And I like this one. I do. I know not everyone likes this movie, but I do. I think we do get quite a bit of Freddy and Jason fighting. One of the flaws is it takes a while to get there, but once you get there, it's pretty damn good. The problem is in this hour-and-a-half movie, it takes a little over an hour before we get our first real fight between Freddy and Jason. So I did notice that this time. Also, I think his name is Ken Kersinger, who plays Jason in this one. You can correct me if I'm wrong down in the comment section. Maybe takes a little bit too much heat, but at the same time, he's only okay as Jason. I think they could have done better. Potentially including Kane Hodder. I think Kane Hodder would have been better in this role for Jason. I think that would have been cooler to see. Ken Gersinger is an okay Jason, but not great. I like the aspect of Freddy kind of using Jason as a pawn at first. How they kind of have this weird alliance. That was cool. But overall, yeah, the fact that this feels a little bit more like an Elm Street movie, and this is a Friday the 13th ranking, and Jason not being the best in this movie, or the Ken Kersinger not being the best Jason, even though the fighting between Freddy and Jason, it lives up to the hype, even if it takes a while to get there. So I like this one a lot. I highly recommend it. Maybe give it another shot. We do get a lot of Freddy versus Jason in this. Freddy versus Jason at 6 on my list. At number 5, we have Friday the 13th Part 2. This is essentially the same movie as Friday the 13th. The big thing for me here is Ginny as the final girl. Amy Steele as Ginny is easily the best final girl of this franchise, and I don't think it's close. I like her character a lot. I actually really like the relationship between her and Paul in this movie. They had good chemistry. I like how she's kind of consistently outsmarting him. I like how they give her the character aspect of having a background in child development or whatever. And she kind of uses that to her advantage and, kind of uses that to understand Jason to a certain extent. And it leads to one of the great scenes, one of the most recognizable scenes of this movie, where it's at the end of the movie and she's fooling him, and she's kind of pretending to be his mother and kind of trying to distract him, and it almost pays off, but she can't quite get it done, and he's able to figure it out. That's a great scene. I like how it comes back to that. I think Amy Steele does a great job at the kills, pretty good. The one big thing holding this movie back for me is this is not the best Jason all around. I like the bagged head look, but the actor portraying Jason, I'm drawing a blank on who that is. This is far from the best Jason. In fact, this is one of the worst Jasons in the franchise. I thought the characters were better in this one than in part one. The kills, I think the kills in part one are actually a little bit better though as well. So I think the kills are better in part one, and again, this portrayal of Jason is just not my my cup of tea, which is why I decided to rank part one ahead of part two, but still very solid sequel. Number 4, and that is Friday the 13th, 1980. Yes, folks, Friday the 13th, 1980. This is an interesting one because Friday the 13th, 1980 is never ranked all that high. Usually when it's the original of a franchise, it's ranked at or near the top. You rarely see this one ranked number 1 on Friday the 13th ranking lists. It's just not up there, and it's not number 1 here. Now, this is a good slasher movie. I mean, there's a reason that the camp aesthetic became a staple and really a cliche of the slasher genre. It's because there's something comforting but also scary about that camp aesthetic. And I love this. This movie, even though I didn't grow up with it, even though it came out well before I was born, there's a weird nostalgia and comfort you have watching this movie. I don't even really know how to explain it. Maybe it's the score. Again, maybe it's the camp setting and aesthetic. And I almost get more of a comfort and nostalgia watching this than I do watching Halloween 1978. I'm going to say it. Now, it's not a better movie, but I'm going to say it. Also, in this franchise, we get what we don't usually get, except with one other movie, the whodunit aspect. We don't know who the killer is throughout. We don't know who it is. And I like that. And it's it's different from every other movie in that respect. And they drop, I think they do a better job with the red herrings than they do in A New Beginning, because, we see the car the killer drives and Mr. Christie drives a similar car, or we see that Bill has a machete, or we see that Ned is just kind of, a jokester, or we see that Crazy Ralph is walking around saying you're all doomed. I like that. I like the red herring. I like the whodunit aspect. And then what more is there to say about Betsy Palmer, Pamela Voorhees? It's just, she's so memorable, and sometimes she gets outshined by Jason. She's just so good and so memorable in that role. When she first comes on screen, she's almost a comforting presence. And then, as she slowly reveals herself to be crazy, she just does just a good job in that. Kill her, mommy. Kill her. That's just so creepy. Very underrated slasher villain, even to this day. One thing I will say is Adrienne King is not the best final girl. Again, she's okay. I think Ginny is far better than she is. As far as the kills, they're great. They're great. We get the axe kill in the shower. We get the Kevin Bacon kill. We get the kill at the archery range. Just great. Harry Manfredini's score, what is there to say? It's just so recognizable. And again, it there's a sense of comfort and nostalgia, but also fear that you feel when you hear it. I don't really know how to describe it. And yeah, this is a classic movie. It's not number 1 on this list, but this is a classic movie. And if you haven't checked it out, what are you doing? Friday the 13th, 1980 is at number 4 on this list. Okay, getting to the very, very top of the list now. At number 3, Friday the 13th, part 6, Jason Lives. Yes. This movie is just fun. As you know, it was written and directed by Tom McLaughlin. And a lot of people have called this movie Scream 10 years earlier because it has a very horror comedic aspect to it. And actually, Tom McLaughlin in this movie got a lot of hate because he was accused of turning Friday the 13th into a horror comedy. Guys, and I think most people have come around to see this as a cult classic, even people who are not fans of this franchise. But I'm going to say, guys, at this point in the franchise, it's a zombie in a hockey mask. It's a zombie in a hockey mask. I think it's okay if we take ourselves a little bit less seriously and have a little bit of fun with it. And they do. And this movie is just, it's a blast to get through. I do like the horror comedy tone, although it's not a straight up horror comedy. It's kind of like Scream, where I think they go just far enough with the comedic and self-referential aspect, where they go just far enough. And ironically, if you don't know, Wes Craven initially turned down the offer to direct Scream. And one of the people they reached out to was none other than Tom McLaughlin. And he said, no, I felt like I had already done that. And then he actually changed his mind. And by the time he got back to Kevin Williamson, or the right people, Wes Craven had already changed his mind and taken the job. And I believe Tom McLaughlin has said that it's one of the biggest regrets of his career not doing that. Now, I will say this. If Tom McLaughlin was ever given another opportunity to make another Friday the 13th, then I think he would have taken it too far, because the idea he pitched was Jason versus Cheech and Chong. And yeah, that would have gone too far. Now, as much as I love the tone of his movie, now you're getting too comedic. Now it's getting spoofy, and I wouldn't have loved that. I wouldn't have loved that. So, yeah, not my favorite. And I'm kind of glad he didn't get the opportunity, but I love this. It's fun, but it's still, a slasher movie. We obviously get Tom Matthews in this movie, who's great, who is arguably the most memorable Tommy Jarvis. Another thing I love is that this movie fully embraces Jason as supernatural. If you guys don't know, and I don't think I've said it yet, I prefer Jason as a zombie. I think Jason as a zombie is cool. With Jason, unlike Michael, there's no mystery there. So I don't agree with embracing Michael as supernatural in the same way that they've done Jason. Because with Jason, let's be honest, he's awesome, but there's no mystery there. There's a mystique and a mystery with Michael Myers that just isn't there with Jason Voorhees. I was fine with having him be a zombie. I think it's awesome that he's a zombie, and I think the kills are awesome. I think the fact that they have, kids at the summer camp finally not only, again, adds some comedy, but it raises the stakes. And there's this great scene in this movie where Jason, he walks into a cabin with these kids, and one of these kids is awake, and he looks down at her. And I think that's a great scene because we have no idea what he's thinking. He's like looking down at her. We're thinking he might kill her, but the truth is we don't know. He hasn't seen a child in God knows how long, so we don't know. And I just thought that was a really cool and really fascinating scene. And yeah, again, the kills are good. The back-breaking kill, the kill kind of through the window. Yeah, the kill of Martin the Caretaker, all good kills. Not the best of the franchise, but all good kills. I like that the death of Jason is kind of putting him back where he belongs, putting him back in Crystal Lake. I thought the ending to that, and that was a really fitting way to kill off Jason. Although I think the ending where he's underwater and they show the eye, and it just, no, that's not good. That's one of my few complaints. Also, I don't think this is the best look for Jason. But yeah, guys, overall, this is just a really fun movie. It's okay if you want to start taking Friday the 13th a little less seriously and just, have a blast with this movie. Oh yeah, before I forget, another thing I love is the soundtrack. We get a lot of great 80s classic rock themes, Teenage Frankenstein, and how can you not mention Alice Cooper's song for this movie? You're going to keep the credits rolling when you hear that. I listen to that sometimes even when I'm not about to watch the movie. So there you go. It's great. Great soundtrack. Pretty good kills. I like the Tommy Megan relationship. And overall, just, yeah, this is a blast of a movie. It's having fun, but it's not going too far. It's not spoofy. It's a good time. So Jason Lives at number 3 on this list. Okay, finally, number 2. And number 2 is Friday the 13th, Part 4, The Final Chapter. And in a way, it is a final chapter because this was kind of, I mean, it's not the final movie, but it was kind of the end of the classic Friday the 13th movies. It was. And after this, they got quite a bit experimental. But yeah, this is a fan favorite. This is one that I often see as number 1. I came very close to putting it as number 1. But obviously, this is the start of the Tommy Jarvis trilogy. First positive, Corey Feldman, really good in this. Really, really good in this. I like Trish. Ted White as Jason is great. Crispin Glover is great in this movie. You got really memorable and likable characters. I love the back and forth between Crispin Glover's character and Teddy Bear. That was awesome. Again, the kills are just outstanding. I like Jason's look in this. The ending is awesome. The cinematography is awesome. I'd maybe put Ted White above Richard Brooker as Friday the 13th goes. You got, likable but fun characters. You got great kills. You got a good Jason. You got Corey Feldman as Tommy Jarvis. This one was very close to being my number 1, guys. This one was very close to being my number 1. I actually never understood why this was so highly thought of. I thought it was decent, but I didn't think it was that great. And now, for some reason this time, it just all clicked for me. I saw it. I saw why everyone loved this movie, and I love it. But, okay, that is going to move on to a very controversial number 1. And yes, my number 1 is the Friday the 13th, 2009 remake. Yep, guys, I'm going to say it. The remake is my number 1. And there is one big reason, and Derek Mears is the biggest reason why this movie is my number 1. For one, this is a very good-looking movie. The cinematography, the lighting in a lot of these scenes is excellent. Derek Mears, if I were to ever rank the Jasons, Derek Mears, hands down, my favorite Jason. Hands down. And I'm going to say it. Between him and Kane Hodder, it's not even close. It's not even close. I know I'm getting myself into a lot of trouble here. It's not even close. This Jason is pissed off. This Jason is smart. I mean, that opening scene where we don't even get the title sequence until 20 minutes into the movie, that is one of the best Friday the 13th things ever. That opening is so intense. That opening is so badass. I mean, the kills in this movie, the sleeping bag kill where she's over the fire, in the bear trap where, he puts the machete through the dude's head and then kicks him off. Just such a badass moment. That opening is so intense and awesome. It's just awesome. And it just shows that, how awesome Derek Mears is as Jason. And again, I love how he's pissed off and he's intimidating, but he's also smart. Like, as much as I love zombie Jason, I like this Jason as well, where he's got like this tunnel system under Camp Crystal Lake, and he's set up like tripwires and stuff and bear traps. And that's how we know how he can like teleport and go quickly to different parts of the camp. I love that. I love that he's like, again, this intimidating badass, but also this kind of smart hunter. again, I think these are some of the best kills of the franchise. And the big complaint of, well, all the characters are shit. I don't agree with that. I think Trent, because he's such an asshole, gives this movie that reputation. But I think the other characters are pretty fun. I don't have a problem with the other characters. I mean, Jenna's kind of bland, but I like Clay. Jared Padalecki is Clay. I don't mind the other characters. And in fact, I think they're fun, And again, the kills are great in this. As I said, the axe kill where he throws the axe and then he goes back and like impales this dude on the axe handle. It was great. This is everything you want in a Friday the 13th movie. Unbelievable Jason. The cinematography is excellent. This is an excellent looking movie. I love the look of Jason in this movie. And yep, this is my number one easily. And I'll admit I have a little bit of nostalgia for this because this was the first Friday the 13th movie I had ever seen in theaters. But from that opening to Derek Mears to just the atmosphere, the cinematography, the lighting, this is a much darker, grittier Friday the 13th movie, and I love it. So I know I just pissed Corey Feldman off because he recently said some very disparaging things about the remake. But Corey, if you're watching, I'm sorry. I love the remake. I love the final chapter too, but I love the remake a little bit more. Actually, before I go, I want to get some things out there that I forgot to mention about some of the previous movies. How did I talk about Friday the 13th, 1980, and not mention one of the great jump scares in horror history? That ending with that jump scare of Jason coming out of the lake, it fooled me the first time I saw it. That jump scares usually get to me, and that one really got to me. But then you get to part 2, and the jump scare in that, at the end of that, is okay. And then you get to part 3, and the jump scare in that, it's just kind of lazy and doesn't even really make sense. By the way, the lake in 3, I forgot to mention as well, does not look good. It does not look like the original. Like, it doesn't look good in general. And another kind of nitpicky problem I have with part 3 is they introduce a pregnancy storyline for Debbie in this early on in the movie, but they don't do anything with it. In fact, they only make reference to it in like 2 lines of dialogue, and then they never do anything with it. So I don't know why they brought it up. That would have been kind of cool if they gave, Debbie a pregnancy storyline or something like that. That had potential to go somewhere. And then finally, I will say this. If I have some problems with the remake, the jump scare ending in that one too is incredibly forced, and I don't like it really at all. And then some of the dialogue in that opening, as awesome as that opening is, does feel a bit forced. Like when Wade is talking about, GPSs and he's like, oh, signal, like no, that wasn't good. So, okay, guys, that is my ranking. I want to hear from you. Do you agree with my ranking? Do you disagree with my ranking? I want to hear what you have to say. Give me your ranking in the comment section. And that's going to do it for me today. And I will see you guys later. Comment below, subscribe, and take care.